Hi, I'm Nicole.
I'm Michaela.
I'm John.
And today we're going to talk about our book, Fish in a Tree. Our book was written by Linda Millay Hunt, and our first question today is to talk about the author and her inspiration for writing this book. So clearly, Hunt plays a big role in this book. She is actually Allie. She writes about her own experience with a learning disability growing up, which makes it really reliable in the emotions that Allie's feeling and the difficulties that Allie faces because Miss Hunt also was struggling with reading. Um, we have Mr. Christie, which is in the book Mr. Daniels. So that was Hunt's Mr. Daniels. And that teacher played a huge role in what Hunt does now in her education moving forward. Does anybody else want to add anything about this author?
I just wanted to say that Linda Hunt was a very inspirational person. Her goal was to help kids understand that being different doesn't mean that you're less smart. It means that you learn in different ways, and that's okay. And she makes the way she speaks just makes everyone feel included. And from a personal point of view, my sisters actually had dyslexia like Linda, and I've watched them grow up and struggle, and they always felt less smart because they were always in the IEP classes, but they would have better averages than me, and they did so much better in school than me because it doesn't defy who you are just because you have a little reading disorder or you have a problem or an IEP. John, what do you have to say about that?
No, yeah, I definitely think coming from like a first person point of view of like, Linda explaining like her own experience in the classroom really kind of just gives us an insight into what students like how they feel, like what like some of the thoughts that we see Ali kind of experiencing, like those are like firsthand accounts of what this author like actually experienced in her classrooms. And so I believe like just having that as sort of like a an idea of what students are sort of thinking in the classroom, and so how like not only do these does dyslexia in this book affect the Ally within the classroom because of her struggles with reading, but it also affects how she views herself, how her peers view her. And so this is like experiences that students face in the classroom, right? When they're struggling, they don't want to be viewed in sort of this negative way, like they're viewed as being lesser than the other students, whether that's by administration or whether that's by their fellow classmates. You know, these are things, real like, things that students face and go through. So it's not only something that affects them academically, but something that affects them emotionally and socially as well.
I couldn't agree more, John, and to you, Nicole, as well. Um, Now let's gear off Lydia for a second and maybe let's talk about Mr. Daniels and the kind of environment of a classroom he created for Allie. Nicole, do you have anything to say about the way Mr. Daniels helped Allie and made her feel like she was in a supportive and safe environment?
Of course. So I think something that's really big about Mr. Daniels is that he promotes a multicultural and a diverse, safe classroom setting where he actually works on people's differences. He sees them as superpowers rather than things that should be hidden. And I think we see this when they do the show and tell, when everyone brings in something about themselves and everyone gets to see this is what makes this person, or this is something that's really important to this person's life. I think another thing that is really cool about Mr. Daniels is that he has a lot of hidden messages when speaking to students. So for a student like Oliver, who seems to get really excited and wants to share his ideas a lot, um Mr. Daniels actually like tugs on his ear when he looks at Oliver, and Oliver like knows like he needs to like simmer down and he's got to let someone else's ideas come to light. And I think that's something else that we see when he does that activity where he explains the influential people in history and how they had dyslexia, like Albert Einstein and Thomas Edison. And he speaks on how these important people in our history struggled with dyslexia, but have somehow are the people that we remember and we praise to be one of the smartest people we know. So I feel like with Mr. Daniels, he has a lot of formative assessments, and he also promotes creativity and self-expression, especially through all the journal articles that the kids write every day. They write whatever they want in their journal. They get to express how they're feeling, they get to express something that excites them, whatever it is. And then with that comes praise. When students do a good job, Mr. Daniels goes over and gives students a high five. And I remember that Allie said that he was the first teacher that's ever given her a high five. And I remember how much it meant to her. But John, do you have something you would like to add?
No, yeah, I think you summarized that like really well. And we definitely see like a big contrast from how Allie feels going to school in the beginning of the book to and see how that sort of progresses throughout each chapter, how she becomes more comfortable in the classroom and more comfortable within her own self as the days go by and as she, grows closer to the type of classroom that Mr. Daniels is setting up for his students. But like we noticed, like in the beginning of the book, how very reserved Allie was, and how she had such negative perceptions of school and negative perceptions of herself. But once Mr. Daniels comes into the picture, he starts to sort of recognize these negative perceptions that Allie has, and he uses them to his advantage to sort of actually kind of bring out the best in her, right? So when he notices Allie's kind of like shying away from like an assignment, or shying away from, maybe working like or presenting something in class where the students may have to like read aloud, he always kind of recognizes that and uses that as a way to kind of encourage her, and also like find different ways that he can bring out her capabilities. So he's just really good at identifying like what students need, and how to bring out the best in his students. So like one of his ways, you brought up assessments, he allows students, like you said, to pretty much make use of whatever is best for them to express themselves. So we see with Ali that he recognizes her abilities to draw and kind of visually depict what she's thinking, as opposed to writing it down on a piece of paper in like sentences. So he uses her imagery and her ability to draw as a way to assess her on the assignments. And we even see that when he's absent one day in class, how he lets the substitute teacher know, hey, like Ali doesn't have to write for this assignment. But I also think that his approach to doing that is a lot better than the other teachers that we have seen or been introduced to in the book, because previously, Ali's previous teacher would kind of shun her, or, kind of enhance those negative thoughts, because Ali would struggle to write in the classroom, and she would still kind of forcefully push her to do it, as opposed to kind of meeting her where she's at and trying to understand what she could do to better assess Ali, given that she's clearly struggling to read and write. And then we also see that with the substitute teacher, that she ends up reading out loud those instructions that Mr. Daniels leaves, like, oh, Ali, you don't have to write for this assignment, which again enhances that negative viewpoint towards Ali from her other classmates. So Mr. Daniels is just really good at understanding, how to communicate with his students, and also just again like how to create that personal bond and assess them in the best ways that will bring out the best of their work, pretty much, and not sort of restrict them to one set way of doing something.
So interesting, John. I want to piggyback off of what you were saying about Allie, and when you were kind of mentioning the different things that Mr. Daniels does to help Allie. And I wanted to kind of talk about her strengths. Like, this girl thinks in pictures, and the rest of us are trying to find our keys and can't remember where we placed our keys. Allie's brain is over here creating stories. She could do anything with her brain. She imagines pictures, animations. She is so smart. And even though it might take her a while to solve problems on paper, the way she speaks and the way she presents what she's doing, she's able to do it in a different way than other students. Um, we we do need more of a student like Allie. She's not only a smart kid, but she's also very kind, as we've seen in the whole entire book. And that is someone I would look at and say that we need more kids like her, because even though she does have a reading disorder, it doesn't stop her from being kind to people. She's not mean, she's understanding. And of course, she has some weaknesses, which are reading and writing. They're a no for her. But it doesn't stop her from, it doesn't stop her from, like, it doesn't stop her from presenting to her best ability. Like Mr. Daniels really helps with one-on-one training with extra time. He understands her, he gets her, he gives her strategies, he breaks down words for her. He helps her sound them out. He builds her confidence in ways that some students can. People probably look at Allie while she's reading and laugh at her. Some students aren't nice. But then you have the teachers who are there and who become their best friends in a way because they help them out so much. And I think Mr. Daniels is such a positive effect on Allie's life. He literally looks at her and she might think she's dumb and he thinks she's awesome. And she's not dumb. And he finds different ways of helping her and making her feel like she is smart, which I think is such a major trait as a teacher. We need more teachers like Mr. Daniels because there's some teachers who just don't care and want to get on with their day. And then you have some teachers just like Mr. Daniels who are only there to help and be there for their students. Yes, John.
I just wanted to follow up on something that you said, where you had mentioned that like he really tries to build that bond with Ali, and like you mentioned, like where she kind of views herself as a failure, like he sees so much potential. And I would just like to kind of like add on to that, where we see this a lot when he offers to meet with her after school, and he introduces her to playing chess, and he like shows her how to play, and then after like the first game, like he beats her, but then as time goes on, she continuously is able to beat him because of her ability, like you said, to kind of see in pictures. Like she can view in her head, like kind of like the steps to take and what's going to happen next visually. And that visual representation for her is what allows her to ultimately beat him multiple times. And that's sort of a way to establish that relationship, but also uplift her to allow her to see like that she is able to sort of think outside the box and use like her knowledge to her advantage in these scenarios. And so that sort of mitigates or gets rid of those negative perceptions that she has about her capabilities, because he's starting to bring out those positive feelings in her through through using her critical thinking skills.
Just to chime in on that, I think that chess was actually a really great idea for Allie. As we know, when Allie looks at a page and goes to read, the letters are what are moving, and chess is all about your next move and like stopping your opponent from having another move. That's what chess is about. So I think the idea of like the chessboard and she can visualize where her next move can go to trump her opponent is huge. I think from a confidence standpoint, we see in the beginning of the book that Allie struggles with confidence. And then as time goes on, Mr. Daniels brings up her confidence. I think as teachers and or professors, we have to believe in our students, and we need our students to know that we believe in them. Once Allie knew that Mr. Daniels believed in her and the impossible turned to possible, um it was a whole different ballpark. She was trying harder, she was working harder, and her confidence was so much better, not even just in school, but also in the relationships she makes with her peers and her social life. So I think that is huge. I think we also see Allie's a visual learner in the assessments where Mr. Daniels talks about the wolf, the chicken, and the grains, and being able to transport all of these things across the river without one eating the other and making sense of that. And she was the only one that was able to solve that. How you would bring the chicken over, leave the wolf and the grain on the other side, then you would bring the grain over, but then bring the chicken back, that sort of thing. No one else was able to figure that out. So I think um, that was huge. And I think creativity, art, math, those are her strong points. And that's where he was trying to target. And I think that's something else that we should also look into as teachers.
Couldn't agree more, Nicole. And talking about how Allie's confidence evolved throughout the whole book was something that a lot of people dream of doing because she started off feeling like broken, like there was no fixing her, like she was not bright and she couldn't get through school. And she finally got somebody in her life. And sometimes it takes 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years to find that real support. And she found that real support through Mr. Daniels, who actually showed her that she is more capable of what she thinks she is. He helped her confidence grow. And not only did Mr. Daniels help her confidence grow, but also her two friends, Keisha and Albert, played such a big role in her confidence evolving. They've made her feel like she was capable, smart, important. They made her feel like she was able to do whatever she wanted to do. Um they were such a confidence fuel for her, and I respect that in a way because people need friends like that. And when she started to stand up for herself, when she realizes she was able to learn, she had strengths, she began standing up for herself and not being as shy anymore. And I feel like by the end, she was the type of kid to be like, please don't call on me. And then she wanted to participate, she wanted to be involved. So I really think this book can help a lot of people, especially people with IEPs and especially students who struggle in school, because this showed how someone can evolve from not feeling like they're worth enough to being super smart and feeling confident in their work. And like you said about the drawings, like even though maybe she couldn't put her thoughts into writing, there were other things that she could have done to express what she is learning in school. And she did this through drawings. When instead of writing the teachers a letter, she drew them illustrations. When she solved problems, she would use boxes and drawings. And um, I thought that showed like not every kid is the type of kid to read something and write it on paper.
Very good, great answers. So I think we discussed a lot of what Mr. Daniels does good, but let's now look at what he does to help Allie's learning disability specifically. So I think something that was really good was that Mr. Daniels teaches Allie how to chunk a word. So he tells her how to break down a word so it makes it easier to read. We also mentioned how she sees the letters moving, so he gave her an index card to place underneath the word that she's reading, and that allows her to just focus on those specific letters rather than all the other letters that are moving up and down the screen. Another great thing that Mr. Daniels does is, I mean, he knew that she was struggling her with her homework, so he would have her stay after school and work on her one-on-one, and he made her a deal that, you show up after school, you put in the work. She was going to be excused from homework, and I think that that's also very good. Um, does anybody else have anything they want to say? I think another big part was that not just with Allie, but the whole class, he was checking for understanding, which is something that we also went over in class and the assessments that we've done. Does anybody want to take over?
Yeah, I'll just add in, I think you mentioned it as well, like making her like stay after school, really just shows like his care for her and wanting to help her succeed. And I think that's like a big part is, being a teacher is that you have to obviously be there for your students, right? So and his way of being able to have that one-on-one time with her, he assessed that that was like the best way to sort of help her to the best of his ability was to have that one-on-one time with her. So allowing her to come after school and, spend that extra few minutes or, an hour or so after class to use these strategies that he had to sort of help her in reading, was a big part in how Ali started to build that confidence. So you have to, be there for your students and show them that you're there for them. Like, don't just tell them, I'm going to be here after class if you want to come see me and you don't stay after school. Like, he was there every day for her, and they had this planned, where she became excited to like meet with him after school because they would play chess and then he would teach her some new strategies on how to read. And even later on at the end of the book, where he promises to also help her brother, Travis, who also struggles with dyslexia. That was something that's, again, showing his care and his want to help her. And if that means also being able to help her brother, if that'll get Ali more engaged and continue to bring that positive energy in the classroom, that's something that he's going to do to help her and to show care and help for his students.
I think it's so big that Allie was so influenced by this teacher that she's the one that brought her brother to him and referred him and was like, hey, yeah, this has been helping me so much. You need to meet Mr. Daniels and you need to learn from Mr. Daniels so that, you can become a better reader. So I think that's also great and huge. That just shows that she really, she really got the help that she needs and she's going to continue to grow as a learner.
Yeah, and I think just again, like trust is a big thing in the classroom. Like your students have to trust you and know, like trust that you're going to be there for them and follow up on your word. And I think we see that Allie's trust for Mr. Daniels is totally different from the trust that she had in her previous teachers or even in previous administration, where she just did not care because they did not show that care to her that Mr. Daniels showed. And because of that trust that was established, Allie was very accommodating to staying after school and doing things that were very difficult for her to do. But because she believed and trusted Mr. Daniels, that's how she ended up continuing to go on with um, you know learning how to read.
So to end this all little conversation off, Allie is just a girl who struggles with reading. She's a girl who discovers her own strength, and Mr. Daniels helps her see she's capable of doing anything she wants in school and in the real world. Keisha and Albert make her feel confident in herself and make her want to fight and are really there for her throughout the whole book. And together they show that everyone learns differently. Everyone has something they're good at, and everyone deserves someone who believes in them. And if Allie taught us anything, it's stop trying to fit in. We're all our own person. We all learn our own ways. We're all good at certain things. Some of us are good at reading, some of us are good at cooking. We're not all good at the same things. Stop trying to fit in and just be yourself and grow. And thank you.
Thank you everyone for watching. All
Ciao,
right,
ciao.
goodbye. Bye everyone.